just not true. You can quote the entirety of the context and then ignore it. You can read stuff into it, which is what's being done, which is what a number of people have done in this particular instance. It doesn't, you can say, I've got the entire book right here. Okay, but if you're not accurately representing what it says, what the intention of the author was, how many times have people held up one of my books and what they were saying was absolutely positively ridiculous? So I'm sorry, doesn't matter how often you quote it. If you're not accurately representing it, you can still misrepresent the thing. That's obvious.
So if someone wants to make the charge, that's out of context. That's out of context. Well, what context was absent from our presentation? In other words, what could we have added of the context to be free of the charge of taking it out of context?
Well, maybe some knowledge of Roman Catholic theology. Maybe something to demonstrate this was what he was talking about in the talk. Maybe something that would explain why, given that he's talking about our experience of failure and difficulty in this life, that's not the context of humanly speaking. It just seems like such a long reach here. And there's no reason for this. There just isn't any reason to go here, given there's so much stuff already that we could be talking about and should be talking about, and almost nobody else was talking about, that to be spending time on this, it's a sort of a shame.
And the answer is nothing. We provided all of the context in his own words in 3 different ways for you to judge for yourself. If someone wants to claim misrepresentation, I would say how? And the answer is not that you misrepresented him, not that you changed his words around, not that you edited the video. No, only that you didn't come to the same conclusions in terms of what he meant, that the cross and Jesus is a failure in human terms, or humanly speaking, is the way that he phrased that. Humanly speaking. As a matter of fact, let me make sure I get that right. Humanly speaking. We're followers of Jesus Christ, and his life, humanly speaking, ended in failure, the failure of the cross. Okay.
Yeah. We are saying that the conclusion you came to misrepresents the intention of the Pope, and that it is inappropriate to say that what the Pope intended to communicate was that the cross is, in the perspective of the Roman Catholic Church, speaking as the head of the Roman Catholic Church, a failure. That would require such a massive context that's nowhere in this talk, that once again, simple concern for accuracy, honesty, and really getting to the main points. This is the issue. It seems that for a lot of folks in the discernment area today, they get fixated on certain things and just can't step back far enough to start getting the big context. And the big context in dealing with Roman Catholicism is focusing upon the nature of the gospel, the nature of the work of Christ. And that's not what he was talking about here. So why are we spending time on this? Well, I'm doing it because I was specifically mentioned on this program, and I think that it's necessary, even given the relationship that JD and I have had in the past, to just honestly air this and say, we disagree, here's why, and I think I'm right. And if JD thinks he's right, then let JD demonstrate that he knows more about Roman Catholicism than I do, and that there's something in the context here that all the rest of us have missed, but there isn't anything in the context here to provide sufficient basis for making the accusation that was made. Well, you're defending the papacy. No, I'm not. I'm defending simple honesty and argumentation. And as I said to JD in the chat channel yesterday, dude, you have been attacked falsely so many times by this very methodology that you of all people should be the most sensitive to doing this in return. I've defended JD against some wild-eyed accusations that people have made. And you all know what that was all about in the Cantor situation. And so I just think if you're gonna demand that people be fair in their treatment of J.D. Hall, then J.D. Hall needs to be fair in his treatment of other people, whether it's the Pope or not. And that's I think what really causes a lot of people problems. Well, it's the Pope, for crying out loud. Yeah, so what? You think that Paul felt it would have been correct for him to lie about the Judaizers, even though they're false brethren? Standard of truth. Standard of truth. We can't go there. We just can't go there.
Some would say, as they had, well, listen, that's a correct statement, because humanly speaking, it did end in failure. Well, listen, there's 37,000 views of this on YouTube. 37,000 views. A lot of people have seen it. If you look at the comments, a lot of people would take it the exact same way that we did.
That was the weakest comment of everything in this. Who cares? I mean, really? Argumentum ad populum? You're gonna appeal to YouTube comments? There is a reason that I don't even have YouTube comments, because what have I called them? IIAs, Internet Ignorance Aggregators. How many people commenting on this have a scintilla of meaningful knowledge of Roman Catholic theology, including the Roman Catholics? Almost none. This is not a meaningful argument, and it needs to be withdrawn, and I would say apologized for, because this... Hey, have you ever seen how many people commented on that Arminian sermon? That means it must be right. Really? Okay, all right. Well, when I heard that one, I was like, hey, filling airtime there, but you're making a meaningful argument.
Which is, humanly speaking, is not a caveat that diminishes the rest of what he said. Now, when people say, that's not what he meant, though, that's not what I am not a stinking psychic. Believe it or not, I do not share the incommunicable attribute of God of omniscience. I don't know what was happening in his brain. I don't live in the Pope's brain. I assume that's where Satan hangs out, because he is the Antichrist. I don't hang out in his brain.
Well, okay. Some might possibly suggest this introduces an element of bias on your part. I mean, I just would ask you to reverse the roles there, and you might understand why I say that. But